Hello, and a very warm welcome from Moneycontrol to a very special conversation. I have with me a person who has 3 decades of industry experience across investment banking, macroeconomic policy, government advisory, project finance, debt restructuring, and mergers and acquisition. He has served successful assignments as strategy advisor to the India Investment Center, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India, and as part of the Economic Policy Unit of the World Bank in Washington, D.C. I have with me Mr. Bharat Kaushal, Managing Director, Hitachi India. Delighted to have you for this interview with Moneycontrol, Bharat.
Thank you very much, Gaurav.
Bharat, we are having this conversation at a time when India is the toast of the world, particularly the Indian economy. And let me put things in context. There's a current context to this. Last month, that is on July 26th to be precise, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India will become the world's third largest economy within the next few years. And if you look at the graph, if you look at the so-called Manhattan skyline of the world's top economies and the growth rates, India actually stands out. India stands out because India is towering over the rest. Uh, just consider these numbers. USA, which is the world's largest economy, grew 1.1% in the Jan to March quarter, which is the comparable quarter data that we have for India too. China's GDP rose 4.5%. The Japanese economy grew by about 1.6%. Germany slipped into recession with a 0.3% contraction of its GDP during that quarter. India's GDP, which is here we're talking about real GDP, which is inflation adjusted GDP, grew 6.1% during that quarter, making it the fastest growing major economy in the world. So help us understand this. Someone who has had both a ringside view and a bird's eye view about how the Indian economy has traversed over the last 3 decades. What does becoming the third largest economy mean for the country and its people? Bharat?
Well, first of all, it's a big moment of pride for every Indian. The voyage of India's ascendancy took an imperious and inspirational pace in early 80s, paving way for liberalization. From liberalization to globalization, the momentum has not been beheld, taking India ahead of its territorial acumen. India's dominance across the world is leading the sustainable transformation. The last 7 decades of India's independence have been illustrious, covering the length and breadth of progress, prosperity, and propelled acclamation. This year, particularly, marks the 76th Independence Day for India. And we are seamlessly cruising through envisioning a new India as we inch closer to celebrating the centennial era with proud and great sense of pride. Our dynamic and charismatic Prime Minister has been instrumental in positioning India as one of the most significant and undisputable economies in the world. From a trillion economy in 2007 to over 3.5 trillion economy in 2022, making it now the fifth largest economy in the world. And Indian canvas of growth has witnessed an unprecedented propulsion, especially post one of the most challenging time the world saw in the face of what happened in 2020. With the unique opportunities and incentives for the development of dominant manufacturing base, the GDP is expected to reach US dollar 8.4 trillion by 2030, making it the third largest economy in the world. And the biggest success so far is the PLI scheme and diversification of global supply chain away from China, where the median age is 38 and the labor supply continues to get tighter. India's demographic dividend steps in to fill the gap of employment.
Absolutely.
In, India's supremacy is considered vital as it surrounds our celestial system. The mission to moon is few notches away as Chandrayaan 3 takes the landing on moon. And
Yeah.
this revered moment will not only be a feast to our visualization, but would set an exemplary precedent towards cementing affluence amongst the world. And such accomplishments have set forth benchmarks that the world is going to follow. The roaring success of the emergence of India as a leader is gaining phenomenal conspicuousness, with the world receiving India as the next nation for driving abundant growth. Recently, India's
Absolutely.
distinctive financial landscape got expanded to the terrains covering France,
Hmm.
UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Singapore, Maldives, Bhutan, Oman, accepting the unified payment platform as an alternate for financial transactions that would commence with by including exclusive services and would get extended as one of the key payment gateways. Such
Yeah,
endeavors will help India take a leading position, become one of the fastest growing economies in virtual payments. And
absolutely.
after, so these 7 decades from a small India story, liberalization, globalization, I mean, India becoming the third largest, when it will happen in terms of per capita, the challenge with that and the UPI being the sort of central focus of the Great Indian Strategy.
Absolutely. Now, Bharat, you touched upon quite a few important points, but let me, try and narrow down this discussion to a couple of more focus points, particularly in the context of the demography and the population. And the central long-run question that India faces is obviously to create jobs and multiply income for long periods of time. You have to create jobs for the armies of young people that are joining the queue of job hopefuls every year. So out of one India's 1.4 billion plus population, 60% are in the working age. And just to put things in context and to understand the enormity of the challenges, on an average, the estimates suggest that 1 million people join the workforce or the job market every month. The question, however,
Yes.
is how many workers will industry and services have to absorb in the next decades, and more importantly, how many will they absorb if they continue creating jobs at the same rate as they have in the past? Bharat, isn't that a challenge that we need to be alive and alert to?
But Gaurav, for any multinational company which is looking for a sustainable labor pool, India is the place to go. And I would like to touch on the hiring activity upward trajectory beginning in 2022, creating a positive outlook even for 2023. I mean, the overall number of jobs rose by 23% in 2022 compared to 2021. So already many of the world's largest companies, of course, including Hitachi in India, have developed technology research centers in India uh, to benefit from the country's vast pool of technology talent. And thanks to the government's recent focus on building infrastructure and manufacturing, an outlay of public investments of 1.97 trillion INR uh, for government and the PLI schemes across 14 sectors, have laid the groundwork to create national manufacturing champions and to
Hmm.
create 6 million new jobs by that alone in the coming
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
So, India and Japan is exploring investment opportunities for Japan
Hmm.
in India in sunrise sectors like
Hmm.
IT, renewable energy, EVs, drones, robotics, which further tends to create more opportunities for Indian workforce. I mean, the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship under the Prime Minister's flagship Skill India mission is setting up India's international skill centers through National Skill Development Corporation to provide skills training and certifications benchmark against international standards for Indians aspiring to work overseas.
Right.
The aim is to train 400 million people under the different schemes and make them job ready. I'm optimistic personally that such jobs are on the horizon. Creating 10, 11 million jobs per year throughout till 2030 is a huge target. And so is the challenge. Of course, Hitachi in
Right.
India is close to about 35,000 employees. Hitachi Group in India, with 9 decades of transforming the Indian landscape, continues to expand um at an accelerated pace as we further strengthen our
Absolutely.
foundations to to become a leading social innovation business solutions company, powering good. While the world witnesses challenges that has placed the existing talent in an imbalanced state, Hitachi is aspiring to take this opportunity and hire talent that would help to strengthen the business acumen within the organization. So, I mean, the
Absolutely.
how factor is important, demography and young
Mm.
talent, the use of
But
digital, the median age, etc., etc.
but at any point in time, do you think that, unless we handle it well, there is always the risk that the demographic dividend could turn into a demographic curse?
Well, I mean, we for a very long time struggled. The biggest bane of India population has turned out to be the biggest boon, really. So today, India is home to one of the youngest populations in the world. With a median age of 28, India as a nation of with aspirational talent pool, I mean, the youth largely drive both income and consumption in the country. So the trend is expected to continue as India will have a median age of 31 and a half by 2030 compared with 40 years in the US and maybe 42 years in China. So, I mean, India truly has the potential to catapult the economy to greater heights. And
Yeah.
to make use of its demographic dividend, it will critically depend on the ability to generate employment opportunities, of course, as you said, for the expected bulge in the working age population in their respective states. And the paradigm shift towards government policies placing citizens and society at the epicenter through empowerment and governance has led India rewrite the story of stupendous success. And this is
Right.
just the beginning of an era that has helped outpace some of the commanding economies envisioning the next phase of incessant revolution, or you can call it revolution. The
Yeah.
aspirational policies and initiatives by the government have played a catalyst in bridging the need gap of the citizen. This is a young and aspirational society where Society 5.0 has happened before even
Yes.
industry came to the big level mark. So there are many different features that surround the
Absolutely.
explanation of the Indian story, whether the demographic window of opportunity will be utilized and turned into a boon or a bane will rest critically on the ability of Bimaru states, I mean, which was
Mm.
called earlier Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, UP, which account for what 58 to 60% of India's working population. If these
Absolutely.
states could attract new investments and are able to generate new employment opportunities, it will be an even faster ride of the turnaround of India's demographic boom. Uh, so the young workers, aspirational talent pool, and all of these things combined are are going to make it happen.
And in India's, demographics is a well-documented global story, but I'll come to that in a moment. Before that, I would like to know your views, and particularly since you have been at the forefront of ushering changes in the manufacturing sector, you did touch upon PLI in your opening comments, but it's more about jobs and the kind of jobs that the industry will throw up, or and the demand for this kind of certain kind of skills. And it's not probably going to be inaccurate to say that we are living in a decade now. We are seeing a massive transformation in how technology is changing jobs. So tomorrow's jobs will be very different from the jobs that we had in the past. Perhaps will be very different also from the jobs that we have currently. Are we up to it for the challenge to create the right kind of skills, given that
Well,
AI and ML and others are actually ushering in a sweeping transformation in the kind of jobs that will be required tomorrow?
you are absolutely right, Gaurav. I mean, this is this. I mean, it's easier said academically what the solution should be, but it is a challenge. The new jobs created are not for those who are going to lose the jobs always, right? So, so yes, we need to create the new jobs, but we need to immediately step in
Mm.
first
Yeah.
and manage the asset that we have in our hand. I mean, these are crucial times for developing countries, and India too is
Right.
one of them. So, improvement, upgradation of technologies at the center of business and economy, AI, IoT, cloud, are part of such developments which change the way we live and we work. That has to be understood very clearly. I mean, the
Right.
talent market in India is experiencing significant changes driven by global economic shifts, technological advancements, and evolving workforce expectations. Some noteworthy talent trends observed in India
Right.
is maybe I think it's EY's Future of Pay Report 2023, uh, include an expanding talent pool. Shortage of skilled talent is being pointed out. Intensified competition for top talent, upskilling, reskilling, key sectors for job growth, and retention and attrition rates. With the Indian
Right.
economy on a growth trajectory, composition of top talent has intensified across various industries. Companies are now placing greater emphasis on employer branding, benefits, retention
Mm.
strategies to attract and retain high quality professionals. I mean, in terms of adaptation, India is maybe the second fastest digitizing economy among the 17 leading
Yeah.
economies of the world, including Brazil, China, Indonesia, South Korea, Russia, Sweden, even the United States, whatever you. So we have
Absolutely.
637 million internet subscribers. 1.2
Mm.
billion Indians have been linked to the Aadhaar program, and more than 350 million smartphone or smart device users are there in India.
Mm. Right.
So
And
for
you did
instance,
touch upon, yeah,
sorry, no, I mean, I'm just saying Hitachi Systems India, for instance, is a
yeah,
Hitachi Group company, is the pioneer of system integration, delivers large infrastructural, social, and institutional solutions. It has facilitated India's largest public sector lender to accelerate technology driven digital banking initiatives by leveraging private cloud technologies, Meghdoot, and developed a data lake concept. In terms of upskilling, reskilling, I believe Hitachi India is completely committed to investing in the right skills in the human capital network. And we are continuously expanding training programs globally across the group, though. But government schemes like Skill India, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, will go a long way in fostering an ecosystem required for research and development in India. And we will provide a much needed boost to the country's talent pool towards AI, high skill level of skills, deliver outside to the world, the Rishi Sunak type of Indian talent success story, make India base for all. That's the important thing. From a India Japan perspective or G20 perspective, I think people working in US get the visas renewed itself in US,
right.
and sometimes feel that, how do you sort of transfer the skills to the world?
Mm.
So, but I mean, there are many Indias in India. It will take
Yeah, absolutely.
still a long time.
Yeah. Uh, you did touch upon the median age and how the median age is now. We're about 28.4. We'll probably go up to about 31.5 in about 7 to 8 years from now. But that also throws up a certain challenge and also changes a few things, both for uh, corporates and brands and also for the government. For the government, of course, is that the dependency ratio, as it is called, of older people to younger people will go up, meaning that progressively there'll be more older people compared to on a proportionate basis compared to younger people. So we need to have a pension system in place, which we do not have. So that is a policy challenge. But my question to you is more towards corporates and brands and the industry, particularly those who are in the B2C space. Until now, the focus has always been that you hook the young in India, and your probably brand will has a better chance of doing well. But as the population gets a little older and gets into the mid 30s, when the median age gets to mid 30s, means that paradigm or that approach or that strand of philosophy as a product,
Yes.
for running business, India will have to undergo a massive
Will
change,
need
isn't
to
it?
evolve. Yes, you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, as I
And
have, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, sir.
No, no, I'm saying that, as I was saying previously too, I mean, India is one of the youngest populations today. And if
Yeah.
channeled and skilled correctly, it kind of changes the species of work that you do. If channeled
Yeah.
and skilled correctly, it means young working class with a median age of 31 and a half in 2030, as you're saying, has the potential to achieve significant productivity gains, thereby bolstering economic growth to the next sphere. I mean,
Right.
four major factors are expected to drive India's aspired economic growth. Promotion of human capital, education, skill development, health is still the first one of them. Of course, infrastructure enhancement, strengthening of institutions, and thereby their governance and administration, the respect for law, and policy reforms. So all of these, amongst these, human capital will be one of the fastest growing components of India's wealth. The
Absolutely.
consequence of sprouting to the visionary phase would require to be agile, strengthening the assimilation amongst our business proficiencies, a deeper acquaintance about our boundless solutions, and giving technology a human face. With more empowerment comes more accountability and
Mm.
responsibility. I mean, India's Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor is a world class freight only railway line that is part of India's most ambitious railway project since
Right.
independence.
Right.
And state of the art technologies have been deployed along with the corridor, making a quantum leap for traditionally labor intensive railway sector. The initiative will lower India's logistics costs, as plain as that, support industrial zones
Absolutely.
along the route, free up
That's true.
existing tracks for passenger trains, and move the country onto a greener growth path and make India a global hub in the railway sector for the world. So, I mean, from Apple setting up manufacturing hub for or Tesla, India becoming an attractive destination for global brands, India has become attractive manufacturing destination, making India
Absolutely.
sell to the world. So, in fact, with a focus to improve human capital scenario, the government had announced several new measures to improve the educational sector in India, like the National Education Policy, which itself is a very big outreach. Skill India, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, and the Kaushal Kendras, etc.
Right. You touched upon manufacturing and how India is beginning to emerge as a global manufacturing hotspot, which is probably the right time to ask you a question on China plus one, and that has been dominating mind space among policymakers and also from a strategic point of view. Do you think India has the right conditions to occupy that space if any opportunity emerges, and it seems to be emerging as manufacturers move out of China and look for newer destinations?
Well,
Does India have the right conditions right now to appropriate that space?
Well, it's all changing. It's in transition. To be precise, I mean, India has in it to become the powerful economic growth engine. It is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, the third largest startup ecosystem, and the tech services, digital and manufacturing sectors on track to become a global powerhouse.
Right.
Considering the geopolitical landscape, I think it's very clear that India has an opportunity to cash in on global companies' efforts to build factories outside China. And this is a
Mm.
time bound window to attract more investments. So, some modern ideas adopted uh, toward innovation by government include updated structural standards, programs like or incentives coming with Atmanirbhar Bharat, science, technology, and innovation policies, the new education policy, etc., to empower the regional manufacturing that would in turn contribute to the production of innovative products at affordable or economic rates.
That's
Moreover,
true.
the quadrilateral security
Yeah.
dialogue agenda to promote peace in the Indo-Pacific region, tackle you know the might of China for India being amongst being the only developing nation amongst the Quad countries specifically, it looks very promising. So, as a group has planned to invest maybe US $50 billion for semiconductors, clean energy, 5G, 6G, cybersecurity, defense technologies, while keeping all eyes on India. So, in fact, availability of talented and young workforce ready to work is already present in India when compared to
That's
China.
true.
And I
That's
believe
so
it
well
is
put.
the biggest advantage for Indian economy. And secondly, the well-established relations with the rest of the world. I mean, given the whole dynamics of trade conflicts and the Russia-Ukraine war,
Yeah.
this acquires a very special relevance.
That's true. Also, the question here is, of course, that India has set an export target of, by the time this decade ends, probably we are looking at an export target of several times of the current level, about 2 trillion, which is nearly three times of the current level of about $760 billion. Uh, do you think, without co-opting the states, because the growth centers will have to move out of the 15 large cities in India, it to a very large extent the states will have to be part of this growth process, or rather
Of
the journey
course.
of growth, unless the states come along? I don't. What's your view? Do you think it's possible to, without the states coming along, it's possible to achieve such an ambitious target?
Well, I think, quite frankly, the competition has begun between the states, and they
Okay.
want to be measured up as the new delivery boys on the block
Yeah.
because we have a young population. So even the political priority is matching with this economic priority. The current
Mm.
economic outlook of India continues to stay progressive and leads the idea of India being number one destination for foreign investments. So in the last 2 decades, around US dollars, 900 billion of FDI inflows in India. 10% of it came only in 2022 due to progressive policy reforms. I mean, whether it's Gati Shakti or National Infrastructure Pipeline. For Japan, just the fifth largest investor, I can tell you, in the Indian economy, with cumulative FDI inflows of uh, nearly 40 billion since
Mm.
2000. So the US 2 trillion export target set by the I mean US dollar 2 trillion export target set by the government comes at the right time as the foreign trade policy
Yeah.
2023 leads the much needed support to exporters. It has an immense focus on the continuation of duty remission schemes and the
Absolutely.
fact that it does not come with an end date, and no uncertainty regarding the continuation of input duty remissions, such
Right.
as the duties remission on duties and taxes on export product schemes, or of the state for central taxes or levies on export of garments. The timely payments by the government will help that business. And a
Absolutely.
geographic specialization incentive in tune with one district, one product scheme has been embedded in the FTP of 2023. So, towns produce goods worth 91 million US dollars or more will get towns of export excellence ideas. So you're disseminating that. The towns will be priority access to export promotion funds as well. On a
That's true.
positive note, it looks very promising because of the healthy performance of exports in the first 4 months of this fiscal. And the target looks, of course, achievable. And Hitachi India is all set to further accentuate its Indian success story by working towards the digital India as a rail hub and creating Hitachi digital framework that is going to become part of every citizen every day, every moment.
Right. Also, there's also this there's question of, while maintaining high growth is one of the primary goals of this government and any government for any country, but we'll also have to address concerns of inequity. The socio-economic goals would require a lot of focus, not just policy focus, but also a lot of implementation focus, and supportive policies will have to be carried out for healthcare, education, clean drinking water, sanitation, etc.
True.
The reason is, unless you have a healthy workforce, the economy will not reach its full potential. Do you think we are on course on this?
First of all, I completely agree with you. And as a developing country, Indian economy is in that state of upswing right now, and I'm sure it's going to be in the ensuing decades. Recent global trends in sectors like banking, healthcare, infrastructure, renewable energy, IT, even FMCG, automobiles, very important part in India, has placed India at the nucleus of global manufacturing and
That's right.
supply chains with young and ready workforce. I think for realizing the agglomeration goals of India's cities, uh, it requires a holistic approach for all Indian cities, large or small, working together as a system.
Hmm.
In other terms, there is need not only for to nurture mega cities and their hinterlands as centers of economic growth, but also
Right.
facilitate tier two, three cities to
Yeah.
take on the mantle for the future. And in this context, I mean, whether it's Niti Aayog, ADB, have undertaken deep research projects strengthening the states and UTs for
Yeah.
broad-based urban development. So it's not just haphazard anymore. I think that the preparation of necessary action plans have begun, and it will definitely help in sensitizing of state governments as possible bottlenecks, investment ideas, employment, and insert the positive pressures on small cities to take on the idea of the smart city plan. And
Absolutely.
therefore, these enablers, tier two city development, policy oriented with goal directed outcomes, uh, you know, sometimes the emerging market opportunities in tier two cities with industrialization, job creation, whether it's a Manesar close to Delhi or Sri Perumbudur and close to Chennai, every city is expanding to tier two cities. And
Hmm.
states also bring out cohesiveness amongst themselves. So, metro
Right.
is a great, silver lining. 40 metro
Hmm.
projects in different cities of India. No other country geography can boast of that. And
Absolutely.
broadband, Bharat Pay, digitization, health, distinguished facilities amongst the states to become epicenters with 100% green or sustainable outcomes as well.
And what's your view about the questions of inequity about health and education? Do you think we are there on course?
Well, there is inequity still, but look
Hmm.
at what we are. I mean, we are the world's most populous country. Hitachi's
Right.
persistent contribution towards envisioning India for India and India for the world and India for the next centennial has been subservient in
Right.
helping the nation constitute an agile yet forward-looking citizen-centric landscape with technological superiority as the inherent part of this progressive journey. So 9 decades of
Absolutely.
unwavering association with India has seen multifarious advancements. With this 2023 is not an exception. But for a large economy like Hitachi, India has never been so central as it is today, in spite of nine
Right.
decades of presence. So covering a colossal territory of Orissa, where Hitachi MGRM Net's impeccable e-education solution has gained unrivaled momentum. In the state of Orissa, it covers 67,000 schools and
Hmm.
touching nearly 25 million lives. We have launched our exemplary unified automated system that would unify the entire education system for the school and mass education department. So, this visionary project will help 160 million parents
Hmm.
realize the dream of their children gaining empowerment
Right.
through unswervingly monitoring performance of their children as students. So it is a mix of, citizen-centric approach, implementation policies, telemedicine, e-education, financial inclusion, people-centric outcomes. Orissa's case, uh, and the telemed solutions with Bluetooth-enabled
Correct.
M-Star kits, which can be placed at primary health centers. It's a whole mix
So
that
the
you
technology,
partner.
absolutely. So technology will be a great enabler in actually helping India achieve its socioeconomic equity. My final question is about climate. And this is something that we can only continue to ignore at our own peril because it's easy to be dazed by the change, the devastation that global warming and climate change has caused because this has reached our homes. We have just seen what's happened in Himachal Pradesh, and acres of land continue to remain submerged by overflowing rivers across Assam, across Gujarat, Uttarakhand, etc. Uh, do you think growth models need to be reframed now, given that, and also climate change is something that is now, it has to be part of the growth model as a primary priority rather than a secondary one, isn't it?
Yes, it's become a business. It's no more a corporate policy initiative for all new capacities. I mean,
Right.
India as a nation is no exception in realizing its long term environmental vision and goals. Across the spectral parameters, the nation has progressed within ecological landscape, ensuring it's not only the necessities, the urgency to address challenges arising out of environmental imbalance, but takes place as a catalyst to disrupt and echo the insistence to contravene a cemented framework,
Mm.
partnering with other nations to accomplish both short and long term vision. I mean, India stands the fourth, maybe globally in renewable energy installed capacity, including, of course,
Absolutely.
hydro, wind power, and solar capacity. The country has set an enhanced target of at COP26 in Glasgow of 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel-based energy by 2030. I think we're already uh, getting to 43% in terms of where we are going to be in that capacity. So there's been a key pledge under the Panchamrit. This is the world's largest expansion plan in renewable energy anywhere in the world. And India has set a target to reduce carbon intensity of the nation's economy by less than 45%. If I said it's the fourth largest emitter, then 45% by the end of this decade, achieve 50% cumulative electric power installed by 2030 from
Correct.
renewables, and achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2070. So, when we aim to have 500 gigawatts of renewable energy installed capacity, I mean, India aims to produce 5 million tons of green hydrogen by 2030. So,
Absolutely.
so that's where the balance comes from. This will be
Right.
supported by 125 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity. Then the equation makes more business sense. So Hitachi has
Absolutely.
been instrumental in leading transformation and setting precedents to actively and proactively resonate um, its revolutionary strategies sometimes that are placing people, planet, and prosperity at the core of its technological canvas,
Absolutely.
sharing an unequivocal vision with India. Hitachi India has accelerated the momentum to lead in the voyage of achieving India's goal of carbon neutrality by 2070. And to instigate this presence or this prescience, Hitachi has set its environmental vision and long-term environmental vision of 2050, which emphasizes to resolve environmental issues and achieve both a higher quality of life and a sustainable society through its social innovation business in a collaborative creation with stakeholders. I mean, Hitachi in India has been accelerating and partnering to fulfill the vision of India through some of the noteworthy initiatives, including setting up, I think, even at the factory level, 3 megawatt solar power plant in Jalgaon that would save, say, 4,000 tons of carbon emission and is equivalent to planting 150,000 new trees.
Right.
Bidirectional ultra voltage, direct current renewable energy
Yeah.
projects, making manufacturing facilities more resilient to address the environmental challenges, and much more is setting up the momentum even higher. So the role of
Absolutely.
energy cost competitiveness
Yeah.
market has given the opportunity to India to move towards its target of reducing the emission intensity of GDP by 45% at least uh, by the time we get to 2030.
Right. So, thank you so much, Bharat Kaushal, for sharing these deep insights about the state of the Indian economy, the prospects of the broader economy, and touching upon a variety of issues, including macroeconomic policy, population, the skills that are required, that will be required for the next 15 years or so, and also how we can continue to ignore climate concerns only at our own peril, and also the kind of work that Hitachi India is doing in all of these and much more in India. Thank you so much for taking the time out and dropping by to have this conversation with Money Control.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. I enjoyed it too.
Thank you so much.